Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about the Grizzlies part of it as we do. We start our pick back up where we left off with our NBA exit interviews. So we'll start with the Grizzlies in this podcast. So the Grizzlies last year they finished 48 and 32. They finished eighth last season and lost to the Thunder in the first round. So, what grade did you give the Grizzlies for their season last year?
So I was going to give them a B because player wise, they got to 48 wins in the West. I knocked them down to a B minus because they did fire their coach, and there seemed to be some turmoil there at the end that didn't seem great. Like, obviously, things behind the scenes weren't as good. But I know it's disappointing to see eighth seed next to you and play in, but they won 80. They won 48 games despite the stuff you have with Ja, despite other injuries. I mean, you're one game from being the sixth seed and not having to worry about it. But I just think when you get the turmoil behind the scenes and you're firing your coach with what 6 games left, I can't remember if they were the 6 or the 10 games left in the season when they can Jenkins. So
Hmm.
that knocked it down a little, but otherwise, it's hard not to be at least a little happy. It's just you're stuck in the West, and that's brutal.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It was so hard with this, with obviously with the Grizzlies because the 48 wins. Like if they're in the East, they're a top six seed. So it's like it's just hard because you're in the West. So I also had a B minus. Some of the things I really like that like Edie looks like he could potentially be a role player. Like it looks like he'll as long that now he got injured. It looks like he's going to miss the beginning of next year. But for the most part, his first year with only 28 minutes a game, he was 9-8 with one block a game. So, we'll see. Will he ever be a full-time starter where he's playing 30 to 32 minutes? Maybe not, but he was the 10th pick, right? And it seems like he'll probably be like a 25 to 27 minute guy who is going to be very situational when you play him. I thought that was good. Scottie Pippen Jr., he had a good run during the season. I thought that was a positive for them as well. And I still think they have depth. And I think that could go well. They added we'll talk about what they added in a little bit, actually, but I don't want to get ahead of it. Any other things about their season, like positive things you liked about their season?
I like the grit that I know they were the grit and grind Grizzlies before, but they always seem to just they care, play hard, and I know that sounds like a low baseline, but when you watch some of these regular season games, to have guys that play that hard, and especially when you have maybe it helps because John Morant is in and out, so guys are
Yeah.
fighting for minutes because they know they're going to get them. But like you said, to see Scottie Pippen Jr. like turning late picks or G League guys that you find into something, um, they're really good at it, and it just kind of sucks the way it ended. I mean, you got to go with your coach. If you think it's the coach, you think it's the coach. But I think they're a pretty good development team, and that's why, despite all the things they've had over the years, they're always, in it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Some things I took away that I didn't care for about the season that I thought were kind of like cons. The health of the team overall just kind of seems like with the jaw injury coming back, and then he got injured in the playoffs. Brandon Clark got injured again, which he just came back from that, that big injury he had. Edie's now injured at the beginning of the season. And there was obviously some other injuries. The Marcus Smart thing didn't work out. That was kind of the big signing like 2 years ago, right? And that didn't work out. So they ended up trade him. And like you mentioned, the other con, I guess, would be the coaching firing in the middle of the season.
Yeah, you hate to see it between Jackson, Bain, and Morant. Like they all just switched gears of being extremely good
Yeah.
or hurt.
Yeah.
And Jaren Jackson, he's been healthy the last couple of years. John Morant, Desmond Bain, I think he had a shoulder thing the one year. Like, it just never for a full season was all there. And, time goes quick.
No, it's true. And Ja had like his worst as far as efficiency season in a while, so that's not good either. But he kind of chalked that up to probably coming back from being injured and stuff, so getting his legs underneath him. And so we'll see if he's even like, hopefully he's back by the time next season starts. Anything else on there this past season for them other than they figured out the Thunder?
They figured it out just in time.
Yeah, just in time. I still didn't like what Lou Dort did though, but whatever. Okay, off-season direction. So we talked about their big trade already. They had one, but we'll focus on the Grizzlies side. They traded for a bunch of first-round picks. I think they got a total of 4 in a swap, right? And then they got KCP and Cole Anthony. So they started sort of a direction. So what do you think about their off-season? Where do they go from here?
I think they've reached the realization that in the West, those three, it's just not going to get it done. And
Correct.
you probably can't. Sounds like Jaren Jackson, his extension is going to be on the higher side, so you probably can't. I mean, you probably could this year, could have kept it together, but you probably can't pay all three with the time service years that they've had in the NBA going forward. But I think they did fine in the trade, recouping picks. If you're going to keep Morant and Jaren Jackson, and you're hoping John Morant can get back to some form of health to play in 50, 60, 65 games a season, you have ammo that you could quickly go back in on this team. So, KCP could be fine for them. Maybe this is more of his five. Cole Anthony, same thing. He's kind of a gunner off the bench, and they don't always have that type. So I think if you're going to cash out and you realize it's kind of coming to an end, they probably did a good job of getting some short-term and long-term assets. Again, like you said, the 28 pick, 29 swap, 30 pick from Orlando is probably going to be on the lower end. But again, with the second apron and how the NBA goes, you never know. Maybe you
Yep.
strike with those. But I think in the West, I think they came to the right decision that one or two of these guys has to go, and if someone's willing to pay that, you probably got to take it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with you. And the other thing now, I think what's going to be interesting to see is the direction they take now, right? Because Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr., I don't feel like just those two with a bunch of really good players around them or solid players around them are going to be enough to compete in the West. So really it's interesting because like you said, now they got a lot of ammo. Cole Anthony and KCP have very tradable contracts. Like one makes 21, one makes 13. So they're both kind of tradable, but I think they're both like 3-year contracts as well. So somebody's got to have that for like 3 years. So I guess like my thought is it's going to be interesting to see if they kind of strip it down, reset, or are they going to go like all in? They got all these assets. Are they going to go all in on another move? That's kind of what I think they have to choose, and it's got to be like a really good player if they're going to go all in to add to John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
Yeah, and I think they're just going to ride out the trade deadline because I'm sure if someone offered a grandfather offer for John Morant, he probably would have been moved. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe he's the Memphis guy, kind of
Yeah,
like Trae Young for Atlanta, where he's just
sure.
like he sells tickets for us. We got to keep him around. But you're teetering on that line of how does I think they might just play it by ear. How does the season go? If
Mm.
John Morant looks healthy, Jaren Jackson's playing good. Maybe we got something here. Now we have a couple extra picks to make a deal. If John Morant's still hurt, I think we're at the process of then tearing it down. But you're right; they're at an inflection point, and I don't know if they're here to make it sooner rather than later, or just kind of play it out because it does seem like they want to keep Jaren Jackson and extend him, renegotiate and extend. So I guess we'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that's their intent. It's just going to be interesting because, like you said, if they just kind of like, okay, let's see how this plays out till the trade deadline, it is possible that Jaw and Jaren Jackson are really good, but they're still trying to battle their way into a play-in the West. I mean, it's just how ridiculous the West is. I mean, think the Mavericks, right? They're going to add Cooper Flag. The Spurs are going to be better. Like, it's just like I don't know, man. I guess it's going to be interesting. Maybe they, like you said, trade deadline. We'll see what happens, and maybe like you get Jaw or like a grandfather offer for Jaren Jackson Jr. And you're just like, you know what? Maybe it's just time to strip it all apart. We'll do some tanking for a couple of years. Not that that always works out either, but I just think it's going to be an interesting thing because I don't know what benefit it is to any team to be mediocre.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think in the West it'll make it more clear, and especially if John Morant gets hurt, like you kind of took off some of the floor of this team without Desmond Bain to kind of hold it down when there was injuries.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agree. Okay. Let's go our long shot. Anything else on their off season?
I don't think so. I think you touched on it. Long shot is I think Jaren Jackson would be the one to go because I don't think there's a huge market for John Morant with the injuries, with the off court stuff. But if you put Jaren Jackson up, whether publicly or privately, that would be the holy cow. What can we get for this guy? Especially if it's unexpected, and especially it looks more and more like Giannis isn't going to be traded. KD's kind of. I don't think the market is as hot as the Suns want for that. So it's hard to find a fit with Jaren Jackson just because I don't think he can play the five, which makes it hard for Memphis. Like,
Pistons.
yeah,
Pistons.
I was down to the Pistons or the Cavs, but I don't think the Cavs have the assets. Like if you moved Jared Allen and you could have a Mobley playing the five and Jaren at the four, like that's one heck of a defensive front. Um, but I think that's the direction. Is if you really want to, if the Pistons are similar to the Magic, like here's our shot. The East is open, and I think it would be an East team. Be like, here's some picks and the always great Tobias Harris.
Well,
And here we go.
yeah. Well, I was like Tobias, Ron Holland, and just every pick we have, like, and then because we got to pay all these young guys anyway, and whatever. That would be amazing. So like like Jaren Jackson and me being a Piston, I'd be okay selling out for that a little bit. He spreads the floor, great defender. He's not a great rebounder, but we have Duran for that. So and Isaiah Stewart. So we don't need to. But yeah, that's sort of like my dream scenario for the Pistons right now. But we'll see. John Morant get traded. Is there any team that like Brooklyn, Miami, like?
I guess Brooklyn could be one of those teams, but I don't think Memphis is doing it for similar to how the Pelicans have refused to trade Zion
Yeah.
for the optics and what if he comes back. So I think we got to go another year of it not looking good in Memphis, and
Yeah.
he's got to stay healthy. And frankly, I think he might be in a position where he has to just tell them, I need to go somewhere else. Um, so I think we're a year away from that because I don't think any team is going to give up what Memphis feels they could save face on to trade him.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let me give you my long shot. This is a long shot, dude. This is what I would call the longest of shots, but I have a three-team trade here, and you tell me who says no, okay? You ready for this? Okay. So this would have to be the Rockets not picking up the Fred Van Vliet option and the Aaron Holiday option. That's the only way the money works, okay? The Suns receive Brandon Clark, Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Gigi Jackson, and all the picks, including their picks back from both the Rockets and the Grizzlies that they just picked up, okay? The Grizzlies receive Devin Booker and Cam Whitmore. The Rockets receive Durant, KCP, and Conchar. Did I lose you?
No, I was just
Now you could switch the young players for the Suns, but you know,
I like that especially for Memphis because they still have Jaren Jackson, so that works. In a perfect world, I think the Suns take that, give or take. You know, like you said, you can maneuver some of the players, some of the smaller players going back and forth with younger players. And I think that the Rockets would want something besides who were they getting? Durant,
KCP, and John Conchar, but you can switch Conchar with whoever on the Grizzlies.
Yeah, the Rockets might want something, not give up quite all of the picks or a different player back because of KD's age. But I think the framework of it works. But in real world, I think the Suns say no because they're mental right now and they think that they can win. They trade Devin Booker.
Yeah,
but if you get all your picks back and some young guys, if you were the Suns, if you were logically the Suns and you could do that, I don't know why you wouldn't. And you could probably finagle getting the young guys of your choosing in some of that too. But on the face, the Suns just say no because they
want Devin Booker.
They can still win.
Yeah, I just thought this would be a perfect, like if I'm the GM of each of these teams, maybe you're right with the Rockets, but I still think, okay, if all I'm giving up is Green and Smith and Whitmore, right? And I can keep Eason and Amen, and you got and then we add KCP, right? And then we get Durant. It's like, you know, I like that. We keep so on. And then with Booker going to Memphis, it would be like, okay, now we're adding like maybe a legitimate piece that can help us contend with Ja and Jaren Jackson. So that's kind of where I landed on that. And I thought that would be just an epic long shot trade that would shake the very bones in the core of the NBA world.
That would be pretty good for I mean, again, you're relying on John Morant's help, but Morant, Booker, and Jaren Jackson is a very good threesome.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anything else on the Grizzlies?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, well, let's move on to our next. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.